Don't apologize. You're all good. So what's, talk about the nature of the business, being a business person. How important is it nowadays? I mean, you and I talked about this a little earlier, but, bands in the old days doing it because they loved it,
Right.
but getting taken totally advantage of along the way, which is now this evolution of, what advice would you give somebody that's saying, hey, I'm trying to get into this business today, from Dan Schaefer, knowing everything you know and everything you've come through and where it's headed. I'm a new, anybody, artist,
Right.
musician, songwriter, band, I'm trying to, obviously, the obvious thing is, connect to the rock and load.
Right.
So,
Okay.
knowing that, but I mean, what advice, string of advice would you give?
Well, I think to me personally, I'm just looking back at my own mistakes, and I'm sure a lot of guys can probably feel the same thing. I think we forget who we are, and I think we forget what makes us who we are. A lot of folks didn't get there because of someone else's brand or okay or this or that. Most folks that make it in the industry, at whatever level that you're in, make it because they're doing it on their own. They are connecting to their audience. You become a commodity at that point. People want you because you offer them something that they feel they can capitalize on, or something that they can share. And actually, I think today is a wonderful time for new artists. For one, one advice that I would, give to a lot of young people is to just stay true to who you are. Just stay true to yourself. If you come to town and you truly want to be a country artist, define what that is, first and foremost. And just remember what I said, the market is 66 to 77. So go back to your roots. Go back to the things that really influenced your life. Rainy Nights in Georgia, or whatever songs that really influenced your life. Those are the songs that I think you need to emulate and pursue. And don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't let someone else tell you that you're something other than who you are. I was working with Bucket Colwell of Bad Company, and myself and Bucket and a bunch of folks. We tracked a whole bunch of songs, and Bucket's comment was, well, man, Dan, you sound way too much like Paul Rogers, man, so I think we need to sound like the Goo Goo Dolls. So we tracked all these songs, and I had to sound like this. And, I had to really, it wasn't who I was. I mean, the songs came out great. I mean, the songs were already great songs, but vocally, it was a hindrance more than anything. So I think an artist, an individual, needs to be who they are, first and foremost. I think writers need to come to town, and people need to come, and first thing they need to do is to actually look up musicstartshere.org, where they can come in and tap right into a working network of individuals willing to help them sort of find their place here, at least a starting point. And there's a whole level of individuals. There's NSAI. There's a lot of folks that you can come at least tap into that. But don't let that be the end to all type of things. That is just a stomping ground to begin. Don't forget who you are. In other words, I guess my point is, don't rely so heavily on other people. Because as you forge ahead and do what you're going to do, I think God will place people on your path that will, people will find you on day-to-day conversations. Next thing you know, you find this camaraderie with individuals, and the next thing you know, you're doing what you want to do. Writers, I would say, realistic things are to get tapped into the writers' nights that are going on here in Nashville. We are blessed to have some of the greatest writers in town. I mean, you can go and see, Chaz Sanford or Gary Hannon, or, just pick anybody. They're just normal blows, They're just guys that just love what they do. There's no pretense, hey, I'm a writer, I'm a hit writer. I mean, what does that mean? You're a hit writer. Why? Because you were in a room someplace with somebody, and you happen to be, it's the draw of the luck, it's the luck of the draw, rather. So I would never go to that either. There are guys who they know who they are exactly. Even today, I think the definition of what a hit writer is questionable. What does that mean? But I wouldn't take a whole lot of stock in what other people think of you as you're writing. Well, that's not really a song that can get cut. There again, there are some realistic things, you do have to be relative to a market. You have to be relative to radio, if that's at least good structure, you don't want to be having these 15-minute songs. Now, that's not bad if you're Yes, or if you're Jeff Beck or somebody. I mean, and you can do that phenomenally well. I mean, that's great too, And that's the whole thing. And that's another thing, if you are who you are and you love what you do, all those other things are irrelevant. They really are. It will find you. That's my thought. You know, for the longest time I pursued session work. Okay, I guess I'll be over here and I'll pursue that, or no man, I'll go over and pursue here, and all of a sudden I'll pursue that, and next thing you know, you're bouncing around, you know, like this, you know. And what I really want to do is just be a vocalist. I want to sing, you know. That's what I want to do, you know. But you get to a point where society says you're either too old, you're too this, you're too that, and you know, I think it's a bunch of hooey, you know. I really do. I tell that to Tony Bennett, you know, or tell that to Tony Bennett's better now than he was probably when he was young, you know, at 84 or 5 years old, you know, whatever. What, I'm being facetious, of course, but you know, I mean, age has nothing to do with it. So young bands or young, you know, young writers or newbies coming to town, tap into other social people who feel like you do. Tap into the writers' rounds, writers' markets. There's the Commodore, there's the Indigo, there's the Listening Room. There's a variety of places here in town where you can go on any given night and just listen and watch, you know. And that to me is one of the things. Now, I think one of the most empowering things that today that artists or individuals or writers can do is actually tap into the social networking as well. I mean, when I was younger and we were playing in bands, I mean, you had to actually have, you know, lists, you know, I mean, mailing lists, and you had to, you know, everybody had the sign so you can mail out and this and that. Today, you know, I don't even know, I got like 18,000, you know, MySpace friends, and one moment you can go out to like 20,000 people, you know. I mean, yeah, a lot of it might not mean anything, but even if you get 1/10 of 1% or 1% of that, I mean, and you get 180 people in a given market that's going to come, you know, I mean, that's more than you could have done before, you know. So I think we have empowered our young people, our young artists, newbies, to be able to do what they want. I mean, between, you know, downloads and this and that, I mean, the opportunity to be able to, you know, get your songs heard and build markets and all of that, I think it's strong. I guess my whole point with that is not to, you know, rely again on other people, specifically record labels and this and that. I don't think that record labels are as relevant today as they were. I mean, I think you could, there again, you have to define what is my desired outcome. If my desired outcome is to be a millionaire, well, it's not with a record label. You're not going to do it that way. Because you owe more than what you're ever going to receive. I mean, it's just the way it is, you know. However, if you want to be like, you know, Green Day or some Pat Green or any band for that matter, just selling units out of your trunk, going from point A to point B, and you sell 50, 60, 70, 100,000 units in the course of a year, that's where the money's at.
Talk about that.
Okay.
If I can get you on a different track just for a moment.
Thanks.
Talk about that. Why